Welcome, Guy here. It is Tuesday night. I should say hey everybody. Willie Mays. It is 7:15 Tuesday night, and I was watching two baseball games tonight. Got a lot to talk about tonight. I was watching two baseball games tonight. Giants, Cubs, Yankees, Orioles was on, and Bob Costas. I walked in the living room, and my wife Alyssa, who's a huge Yankees fan, says Costas keeps saying, "Oh, there's some news, but we're waiting on news. We're waiting on news." And I just remembered seeing earlier today, or maybe yesterday, somebody posted, or maybe the Willie Mays, the family posted that Willie was not going to be at the Rickwood game, the oldest ballpark in America, or one of the oldest by some measure, 1948. Oldest ballpark in America. Willie Mays played there in 48. They're going to honor the Negro Leagues with this game. The Giants are going to play in it Thursday. And they said, well, earlier today I saw a thing, Willie Mays, he's going to watch it from home. So when she said Costas keeps hinting he's being very dramatic, I thought, oh, I bet Willie Mays passed away. And he did, sadly, today on June 18th. If you're listening to this, it was yesterday or 2 days ago, whatever. And, I wasn't, we got to start the show talking about Willie Mays. I mean, he's one of the most legendary athletes of all time at a time. And I got plenty of football to get to, but he's one of the greatest of all time. Some would argue the greatest of all time. I obviously never saw Willie, maybe not obviously, never saw Willie Mays play. Some of you did. Many of you didn't. Even those of you that did, who knows how many times you saw him, what your memory of him is. It got me thinking, there's always, as generations turn over, the last of this kind and the last of that kind. And, Willie is part of an era that the greats of his time will be remembered differently than the greats of our time, because the greats of our time, there's plenty of footage of them. If you're a legendary football player, baseball player, basketball player in 2024, it's like the second definition of legendary, the one where you're just a big deal. The first definition of legendary is it's kind of a legend what you did. It's not even exactly clear what of it is real. There may be some stories in there that have grown over time. Mickey Mantle hits it off the facade at Yankee Stadium. There's a photo with a line that draws up to the facade, and that is the proof that Mickey Mantle hit it off the top of Yankee Stadium in right field. Legendary, I think, before it meant what it means to all of us now, which is, Mount Rushmore level star. Legendary meant somewhat, there were just some gray area. The only way you found out about legends pre-internet and every game being televised was you'd read about it in the paper. You'd have to talk to somebody who saw him, like if you wanted to know about Willie Mays, you'd have to talk to somebody who saw Willie Mays, and that person would tell you he ran like the wind. And you could go watch. We can go watch. There's some highlights. There's some weird, like, home run made for TV home run derbies between him and Mickey Mantle in the 50s. But you can't go watch, just like, if you want to go watch 20 minutes of anybody, you can find that cut up, but not a Willie Mays. Like, part of being legendary meant people talked about you like they'd never seen anything like it. And the people that came after kind of just had to believe him. Now, you look at the numbers and they're just ridiculous. When you think about the advances in film study, in biometrics, in bodybuilding, like, I texted my dad tonight, and the first thing he said was he was a real human. And what he meant was Willie Mays was 5'10", 170 pounds. He hit 660 home runs. He stole 339 bases. He played in the big leagues from 1951 to 1973. For me, Willie Mays always stuck in my head as a kid, and even as an adult, side by side with Mickey, which is how he's rightfully remembered. I think history, maybe it's because, I'm in Northern California and it feels like history remembers Willie Mays maybe as a greater player. Maybe partly he lived a lot longer. And so he was present and, talked about more. He was 93 years old, by the way. But for me, like, I always thought of Willie from first. I had this book as a kid. It was Mickey Mantle's book, and it was called All My Octobers. Mickey Mantle played in 12 World Series. The first World Series was 1951. And it was Mickey Mantle's rookie year, and it was Willie Mays' rookie year, and it was the New York Giants against the New York Yankees. I mean, it must have felt like 10 Super Bowls. Superstars, younger players, right? That you didn't quite. I don't think Willie. Let me go back and look. A lot of this is from memory, but Willie, he played 121 games that year. He had 20 home runs as a rookie. So Mickey Mantle and Willie faced off in the first World Series. Willie Mays, if memory serves from the book, hit the ball that, Mickey Mantle had a really bad knees, and his first severe knee injury in the big leagues came in Game 2 of the 1951 World Series when he stepped on a sprinkler head, twisted his knee, and was done for the series. It was DiMaggio's last World Series. So Mickey was, I think, in right field DiMaggio's last year. DiMaggio retired after 51. And then the league, that was the end of it went from Ruth and Gehrig to DiMaggio to Mantle. It's part of why the Yankees are such massive. It's such a massive brand. They just basically from over 100 years ago till, I don't know, I guess like the mid 80s. Someone would have to check. I didn't do a lot of 70s Yankees research before I started this. The Yankees in the 70s and then the 80s, it kind of tapers a little bit. But they had like the most famous, best players in the sport for, that stretch. So Willie and Mickey face off in 51. Willie hits the ball that Mickey tries to chase down. And, they only met in one other World Series. And then the Giants moved west, 7, 8 seasons later, 58. And Willie Mays becomes a hero of the West, kind of. Like he was. But, one amazing thing when you think about players of that era is they were not the wealthiest person you'd heard of. It's famous that when Willie bought a new house in San Francisco, which you can, for those of you watching, like I'll put the house up, you can see it, 175 Miraloma Drive. It's in at the time and even now the general vicinity is a gorgeous, famous neighborhood. But there was major backlash in 58. The homeowner sold Willie the house. Some of the neighbors said, we can't have an African-American family move into this neighborhood. It'll kill all our property value. And so the owner then said, okay, I'm not going to sell Willie Mays the house. This was Willie Mays. He was Willie Mays, right? And I'm not going to sell him the house. And then it became a big story. And the owner then flipped back and sold him the house. But it was not a pleasant experience. And his wife didn't want to live there anymore. And they moved back to New York. And then Willie got divorced in 63. And he moved to this house, 54 Mendoza Avenue in San Francisco. And, it's a time when not only were these the greatest athletes, but they were really easily, truly just parts of the community and not parts of the community. Now guys are also parts of the community in different ways. Right. And maybe out here, I feel like, you still see them at a golf course or you see them at a Giants game, or if they're a 49er, like actually, those are both just Brock Purdy examples. And Brock's making $1 million. So you see them at a Warrior game, but they were part of the community, not because they did community outreach, but because they lived in regular neighborhoods. Or this is a nice plus. Like this is a very nice house. This second house I'm putting up here on the screen for Willie Mays. But Joe DiMaggio, the same. Like when I lived for a few years when I lived in San Francisco, I used to get my haircut by by a barber on Lombard Avenue in the city. And he had bought that barbershop. He'd started cutting hair there in the 80s. And then he bought that barbershop in the early 90s or whatever and kept cutting hair until he passed away a few years ago. And the guy he bought the barbershop from used to cut Joe DiMaggio's hair because Joe, you can go find Joe's house. I hesitate to call it a regular house. It looks like a regular house. If we went and looked it up right now, it probably costs $4.5 million. But he used to cut Joe's hair. And I've probably told the story on the podcast before. Maybe I haven't. But that barber loved Frank Sinatra. So he had a picture of Frank Sinatra on the wall. But the days that he knew Joe DiMaggio was coming in, he would take the picture of Sinatra down because of Marilyn Monroe, of course. So, like, you hear these stories, these guys. Now, I never really had. I saw him a few times at Giants games. It was, you realized you were like, that is Willie Mays. There he is. That's pretty cool. I didn't know him at all. Had no interactions with him. So there will be, I'm sure, more stories. And I was watching the Giants game, and they started talking about the interactions with him. But it's just these guys really did walk among us, and they looked like you. He was 5'10", 170. Mantle was probably maybe 5'11", Mantle was, I think, probably a little thicker. But it's like you hear people tell the stories. You see one highlight reel in super fast motion. You go, these stories can't be true. And then you look at the numbers and you go, the guy absolutely rocked the sport, and he held up as a legend. And you go, could he still have been? I'd bet yes. I mean, people say, well, pitchers throw harder now. Yeah, you probably would have hit more home runs. You might have hit more. So anyway, I don't have any grand, Willie Mays stories to share or emotional thoughts, but there's going to be a lot of highlights. And maybe baseball's unique. I think anything that happened in the 50s and 60s is unique. Even if you were alive then, even if you were 25 years old and you saw Willie Mays play in his prime, you can't go back to YouTube and be like, oh, here's the game I saw. Let's watch this thing in full. Maybe you can if you saw the right game. There's a couple that are still out there. I don't know if they're on YouTube or not, but they'll be replaying classic games. But you had to really remember stuff. And if you wanted to know about it, you had to talk to somebody who saw it. And that's what legendary really means. The first meaning of legendary is it was the stuff of legend. And Willie Mays was a legend in both ways. So the Giants are going to play in this game on Thursday night, Rickwood Field. It's where Willie Mays debuted at 16 years old in 1948. That's the other thing. You see people, you meet somebody who was 16 years old, who was a teenager, a young teen during World War II. All the things they've seen, all the things they've been through, all the things in their life. It's just, you wish you could get every word of it and soak it all up. And the Giants as a franchise, I don't know if lucky's the word, but to have had Willie Mays be a part of that franchise is a big reason why they're one of the most significant franchises in sports. You have superstar players who are legends like that and win. It helps make you one of the most significant, biggest players in your sport. And there's no way to measure it, but seeing those people in person, it's a very cool, very odd, very unusual thing. So anyway, that's what I have. That's what I have on that. We got some football stuff to get to, but before I do that, a hard left turn, because I owe everybody here a major thank you. If you're listening to this podcast, great. Go to Apple Podcasts, leave a review, 5 stars. I'd appreciate that very much. And in that review, leave a question. Okay, leave a question. You can say something nice if you want, but leave a question, and I'll use that as content for the mailbag, the Hey Guy mailbag, the Say Hey Guy mailbag. Or like the video, subscribe to the channel. That helps very much. Considering on YouTube making it so that only subscribers can leave comments. I don't know if that'll make more people subscribe, but may do that. But that's not what I'm thanking you for. I mean, thank you for that, but that's not what I'm thanking you for. So a lot of you have supported and shared that you like my show, whatever exactly this show is. And in part because of that, I got some money by way of an advertising deal. And I'm very excited about it because it starts today and is going to go through the end of September, basically. Okay, so it's like 2.5 months. And it is, I think, really cool. So I'm going to tell you about it right now. The biggest pro football contest in Vegas are back. It's the Circa Survivor and the Circa Million. They have up to $16 million in guaranteed prizes. And those contests are advertising on this podcast. Thanks to all your support. So there's no rake, meaning there's no extra commission going somewhere else. So it's $16 million in guaranteed prizes, and those two things combined. The Circa Million is $6 million in guaranteed prizes. The Circa Survivor is $10 million in guaranteed prizes. Those two contests add up to 16. But no rake, no commission means if the entries go above the guarantee, so if the Circa Survivor actually is $12 million, well, all that extra money goes into the pool. Entries are open now. They go through September 7th. So we'll be talking about this through September 7th. The key is you got to go to the state of Nevada to register. And I may do that at the end of September if I can. My hope is that I get to Vegas for the same night that Niners Raiders play and do a show from Circa if I can make it work. There's going to be a lot of travel that I've got at that time of the year. But you got to go to the Circa Sportsbook in Vegas, in Henderson, or in Reno. So if you've got a trip planned to any of those places, go to Circa, Vegas, Reno, Henderson, and enter one or both of these contests. Here's what they are. The Circa Million, $6 million in guaranteed prizes, $1,000 per entry. Winner takes home $1 million. There's quarterly and season-long prizes. The entry that does the worst gets a booby prize, which is $100,000. Now, keep in mind, it's $1,000 per entry, but you can enter that with 4 buddies if you want, or 2 people, or 10 people. I mean, you can do whatever. You can get the problem is you gotta, you split it up at the end. That's not a problem if you win. So $1,000, you want to split it, $100, 10 guys or 5 people might be. I think the way to go might be 5 people. Everybody makes a pick against the spread that week if you want to do that, or you just go the full 1,000. So that's the Circa Million. The Circa Survivor is $10 million guaranteed, $1,000 per entry. You pick one team straight up every week to win. If that team loses or ties, you're out. You can only pick one team once. So 20-0, or if everybody, if there's like 5 people left at the end and they all get eliminated week 16, they all lose, then they split that. They split that pot. Last year, 4 people split $9.2 million. It was $2.3 million each. It was the largest legal football contest in history. That's the key. If you're wondering, well, how do I do this? You enter in Nevada, then legally you'll be able to play this contest from anywhere. For more information, visit Circa Sports. Click on contests. I know this was a long read. I hope you'll forgive it. It's not just a read, but I hope you'll forgive it because I'm excited about it. I'm fired up, grateful to have Circa Million and Circa Survivor contests advertising on the podcast for the next 2.5 months. And again, it's because they heard about the show. Thanks to you people. So I owe you guys a big thank you. And I'm very excited about that. All right. So I'll be telling you about that a lot. If you have questions, let me know. We can answer questions about that as things go along. All right. Let's talk about a couple of things. First up, a comment, okay, from Justin. Justin's comment here was this. I agree with you regarding Brandon Aiyuk's video. It felt like a really bad quarter-assed attempt to cause a stir. Reminded me of the Aaron Judge video when some reporter spotted him in a San Francisco hotel. Now, those of you who know me know that the Aaron Judge video is one of my favorite pieces of poor negotiation in the history of poor negotiation. And this, I can't believe, I don't think I made this connection last night. I can't believe I didn't make this connection when we talked about this on Monday. This is a great take from Justin. All right. For those of you who don't remember the Aaron Judge video, Aaron Judge was trying to get a new contract out of the New York Yankees, a free agent. He visited the Giants. He appeared in the lobby of the St. Regis Hotel. He was captured there by the Paps, the paparazzi. It was a setup. If you Google Aaron Judge video, one of the first results will be a video. John and I did this video, and I was adamant this whole thing was a setup. I did. You guys know I did it yesterday with Aiyuk, kind of Zapruder film, break it down, and I went deep on that thing, like deep, and I was very proud of myself for nailing it. Here's that video again for anyone that doesn't remember it or missed it. If you're listening, you'll kind of catch it here, but let's take a watch.
Aaron Judge in San Francisco. What are you doing in the city?
Visiting some family and friends. That's about it.
Oh yeah, any fun plans?
We got something. Have a good one.
You too.
Oh yeah, very. That was quite a setup there. That one was more transparent than the Aiyuk one. But as I said yesterday, the more I think about it, the Aiyuk one was Jaden Daniels. Almost said Jalen Daniels, I might be back at Kansas this year, quarterback. I'm not sure. Jaden Daniels and Aiyuk basically doing an SNL sketch, and they could not keep a straight face. The Aaron Judge one, also terrible. Now, somebody on the chat said, "Was that TMZ?" No. Here was one of the first mistakes of that video. I don't want to go down this road because I could talk about this video for 10 minutes. I enjoy it. But the video had the MLB watermark in the upper left-hand corner. So it was clearly like an inside job. They were drumming up some interest. If it was TMZ, it would have been on TMZ. It would have a TMZ watermark. It had the MLB Network watermark on it. So MLB Network acquired the video somehow. Tell me this. You're just a person in a hotel. You're strolling through the St. Regis. You see Aaron Judge. Now, this was like a TikTok. You're on TikTok. So you're pretty like, you know what's going on in the social media game. Who do you go to first with that video? TMZ, who pays, or MLB Network? The other thing I noticed on this video, what other thing happens when somebody captures a video of somebody else and they post it? What do? Why do they do that? They do that for the credit in part. There was never there was never a name. There was never any credit on this video. So somebody shot this video and didn't want the credit. That was red flag number 2. Red flag number 3 was that if you watch the video, Aaron Judge is walking into a hotel lobby. But if you watch the video, really watch it, you can tell that he's walking from a stopped position. This means that somebody right before they hit record said, "Okay, go." That's the only thing they edited from this video is going, "Okay, go," and then he starts walking. Again, I have to go back and watch the old video that I did. I think there were 7 more red flags on this, and we won't go down this road again. That's fine. Aaron Judge got hit on the hand today in that I was watching the Yankees Orioles. But anyway, so the Aiyuk video.
Bro, look in the camera, bro. Look at the camera.
He got me vlogging this shit.
Bro, what? They said they don't want me back. I swear.
this morning.
You know why both these videos are so short is because the person doing the video is not a professional actor. Aiyuk and Judge, they can't keep a straight face. Like if you watch the Judge video, he has to walk away. He can't keep a straight face. Aiyuk cannot keep a straight face. Justin, thank you for reminding me about the Aaron Judge video. Now, if you're watching this today, maybe you watched Monday night, you know that I called it on Monday night. I said this Aiyuk video, it's doesn't bother me, but it's not tricking me. So let's see, where'd we go? Oh, here we go. Rap Sheet. Ian Rappaport writing about this or talking about this today. The pull quote here from Niners Wire. Rap Sheet says of the Niners, they do want him. They just want him at their price. It's not a negotiation that, to my knowledge, is completely dead. They just have not done a deal yet. It's pretty clear that Brandon Aiyuk wants the kind of money that Amon-Ra St. Brown ended up making, about $28 million on average over the first 3 years of his deal. And the 49ers are not there yet. They like him. They really like him. They just have not been able to come together on a deal. So maybe that's kind of the feeling that Brandon Aiyuk was trying to give out. I've mentioned a few times to you guys recently that I was selling a backpack on eBay. I got a Toomey backpack, so I wanted to sell the old Toomey backpack to help offset the cost of the new Toomey backpack. Toomey backpacks are not cheap. So I posted that old backpack on eBay like, I don't know, 2 weeks ago. And I just let it sit. I don't worry. Eventually somebody will find it. Well, somebody sent me a message. They said they made me an offer. I said, no, thank you. It's not urgent, right? They made me another offer. I didn't reply to that second offer. Let it sit for a couple days. They then just bought it for the price I listed and immediately sent me a message. I woke up this morning to a message that said, how soon can you ship? I'm like, what are you talking about? You haven't even bought the backpack. Then I saw they bought the bag. They needed the bag. They want to know, I can tell, right? They want to know how quickly it's going to ship. They want it by this weekend. I don't know when he wants to buy. I was going to let that bag sit in the basement until somebody bought it. I wanted to sell it for a certain number. It was just going to sit there. I had no urgency. The buyer had urgency. Right now, the Niners, it's June 18th. September 15th might be a different story. But right now, there's not a lot of urgency. Maybe they end up paying $28 million. But they have a process. They're not going to do it on June 18th. Now, I think it's actually a very fair counterpoint to say, hey, why not? If you know you're going to do it on September 18th, do it on June 18th. If you're willing to go to 28, just do it now. Like for anybody who's ever sold anything on eBay or whatever, like a marketplace, you'll always get a message from somebody that says, what's the lowest price you'd take? Like, what's the highest price you'd offer? What are you talking about? What's the lowest price I'd take? Somebody sent me that message. What's the lowest price you'd take? What did I say? I said, I have another offer. Feel free to make me an offer. Go ahead. No reply. Right? So like right now, the Niners like, hey, what's the lowest you would take? And Brandon's like, what's the highest you would go? And unfortunately for both parties or for anybody that wants this thing to resolve itself, somebody else can't just swoop in and pay Brandon Aiyuk, right? Brandon Aiyuk wishes he could say to the Niners, what's the highest you'll go? And the Niners just sit there and then somebody else says, Brandon, we'll go to 31. And Brandon says, fine, I'll go to 31 and goes and does that deal. He can't do that. Right? This is not free agency. So there's no urgency. I don't know anybody who thinks this deal's getting done today. And certainly it's not getting traded in this window. Now, urgency gets created if, let's say, kind of artificially, let's say there's, I don't know, a team out there with a star receiver. Let's say that Tyreek Hill has a career-ending injury suddenly in the offseason. They played Jalen Waddle, but it opens up a lot of money. and the Miami Dolphins, this may not be the perfect example, but the Miami Dolphins like desperately need to fill a spot on their team. And all of a sudden, what they weren't willing to trade before, they're now willing to trade. Oh, a 1 and a 2. I don't know. Maybe then the Niners go, okay, well, let's give ourselves a drop dead date here of getting this deal done. And if we don't, then we'll make that's a bad. You just can't bully the team with this much control into a deal right now. So, I don't. I think part of Aiyuk's when you see Aiyuk joking around in that video, I think he kind of knows that this thing is eventually going to conclude itself. He's seen it conclude itself with several of his teammates, conclude itself comfortably. I'll get to some of your comments on that, but I first want to share something else that I learned this week that I think you guys might enjoy. So Mason Pline is a guy we've talked about a lot, and I interviewed his head coach. He was an undrafted free agent out of Furman. All right. And if you missed it, you can go watch the interview with Clay Hendricks, his head coach, from right around draft time. But I ended up on the phone yesterday just as for no particular reason other than we've been sending each other messages. And I decided to just call him with Mason Pline's tight end coach at Furman. And his name is Nick Verna. And he's an interesting guy for a few reasons. One is that even though he coaches at Furman, which is it's not an FBS level program, it's not a Power 5 program, he has put now a tight end in the NFL for the third time. Tight end is a marginalized position in recent years, particularly at air raid schools. They may not even have tight ends. And if the position is marginalized, then guess what? That coaching spot is marginalized. Your tight end coach becomes a place just to put a guy who you want on the staff and not necessarily hunt down the best coach you can find. But Nick Verna is a hell of a coach. Out of Furman, he's got 3 tight ends in the league. That's pretty awesome. So we had to talk to him for a little bit. And he said, "Well, you have any questions for me?" And I said, "No, I just want to get to know you." But then I had a lot of questions for him. And I asked him about how we found Mason Pline. Now, before we get into that, let's just talk about the player for a second, because the Niners have a bunch of stars, right? Talking about an undrafted tight end who may be tight end 3. I think that's the best case scenario right now for him. It's a little unusual, right? We spent a lot of time after the draft talking about all these guys, and you're like, wait, this team's got the most talented roster in the NFL, arguably. Should we be spending all this time talking about guys who are going to be on practice squad? But I think this guy's particularly interesting because I watched him at minicamp, and he does move really well, and he is huge, and he actually in person does not look thin for a tight end. The 49ers have big tight ends. Mason Pline is, when you see him on a field of big guys, is a big guy. So I don't know what he's going to become, but he's as advertised athletically, bigger than I thought, moves really well, and is very smart. So I think what's interesting here, if you go, well, this doesn't really, I do think how players get found, whether you think this is an intriguing prospect or not, is interesting. And this is the story of that. So Nick Verna's in his office late at night, and Mason Pline had played basketball at Ferris State and then played some football. Some of you know the story already. And that part of the story. But apparently, I did not know this. I got to ask some more college football coaches about this. When a player goes on the internet, Twitter, and tweets, "I'm hopping in the portal," there are some keyword. There is there's software that all these football coaches have that has the power to read what gets put on social media and pull information from social media and put that into a database, as long as the players use the correct hashtags in their tweets. I don't know exactly what those hashtags are, but let's just say it's, hashtag portal senior or portal tight end or whatever. So as long as players use that correct protocol, even though they're not entering any information into this database that the coaches all have access to, that information gets pulled by the algorithm. The algorithm reads it, pulls it, and populates it. Well, Mason Pline is not a social media guy, doesn't care much about it, and did not properly hashtag his tweets. So he did not end up, because he's a big guy. If you just look at a roster, he's going to jump out. The other thing about Nick Verna, which is also important, is he's the NFL liaison for Furman. So he spends a lot of time talking to scouts. So anyway, he's sitting in his office. It's past 11 o'clock at night. He's just hunting social media, and he comes across this guy, Mason Pline. He sends him a message. Pline says, "Actually, sorry, I'm committed. I'm going to go somewhere else." But then he says, "Well, but how are you guys looking as a team?" And Verna tells him, "Oh, we got 21 or 22 guys, something like that, coming back. And it's a really cool place." And so Pline's like, "Okay, I'm interested. I'll send you some tape." So he sends basketball tape, because his college at Ferris State, as didn't throw the ball out. So he sends basketball tape, and Nick Verna says, "Well, do you have any football tape?" And he said, okay. He sends blocking. He spends 2 minutes of himself blocking to Nick Verna. And Nick Verna's like, "All right, this looks pretty good." Now, what had happened was Pline's best friend on the team at Ferris State was a high-profile linebacker, and so he had actually started to get some attention. And he said, "Well, I don't know if I want to come on a visit." And Verna told him, "Just look at LA, man. It's a free vacation. This is a beautiful place. Come out here and check it out." He did. He commits. And then they spend like a month doing Zoom calls teaching him the offense. And this is the part where I think Brock Purdy's really going to like this. As he's working on his family's farm, he's getting up in the morning at like 4 a.m., working 3 hours on the farm, then doing an hour of study over Zoom with his new position coach, Nick Verna. Now, they knew that even though they were going to use the tight ends more, they're like two, three tight ends on the field at a time, that still his stats would not blow people away. So what they did was they cut up every great play he made in practice. So when the scouts would come in and they'd talk to his position coach, who was the NFL liaison, they'd look at the sheet, they'd go, "Oh, this guy's humongous. What's his deal? Why does he only have 16 catches?" And Verna would go, "Well, hey," the coaching staff would say, "Well, look, actually, check this out." And they'd give him, 8 to 10 minutes of great practice cut-ups that really let the Niners see, how much he really produces. So Coach Verna's thing was high-level social skills, high-level character, high-level hunger. We already know, some of you already know, he was an engineering major at Ferris State. But the story that he told me, he's like, so he'd wake up at 4 a.m., he'd go work at the farm, 4 or 5 a.m., work at the farm for 3 hours. And then he'd come Zoom. He goes, a couple of times he would call and say, "Hey, coach, I'm running a couple minutes late. I just got to park the tractor, and then I'll be on the Zoom." And I think that'll maybe he'll join Brock Purdy if he catch this guy catch some balls, and he may be in a commercial with Brock. Here's another comment. I've got a photo of him on the screen. Siggy Slight says Pine needs to bulk up. Jeremy says, "Can he beat out Thomas, Willis, Saubert?" We'll see. Again, I'm telling you, in person, like Eric Saubert is a veteran tight end on the Niners. He's big and he's cut. This guy is almost as big. So some people are looking at the photo going, he looks skinny. He's very athletic looking in person. His arms were bigger than I anticipated when I saw him in camp. I thought, I thought he'd be okay, athletic, but kind of skinny. He did not look skinny. I'm here to tell you, he did not look skinny on the practice field. So anyway, at the risk of overdoing the Mason Pline storyline, there's the Mason Pline storyline. Super chat and a 10 spot USD. That's American dollars. That's I don't know, like $9 €45. I'm getting my euros down because I'm going to Portugal at the end of the month. Party Boy says, hey, guy, where do these tactics come from? Unfollowing the team on Instagram, posting stage videos, etc. Are the agents telling the players to do this? Are GMs actually influenced or pressured by these tactics? I mean, I think it comes from, especially in the NFL, the players not really having any power. So you feel like you got to do something. You know, unless you're a free agent, you don't have the power. If you don't show up and play, like you can't hold out a full season. Not that baseball players or basketball players do, but you can't do that. So I think it starts with that. Like, I don't have any power. What do I have power over? I can do interviews. I can control my social media channels. You know, it's become such an obvious game now that if it ever had an effect on general managers, it probably has less of an effect. I think most of these things, if they're going to have an effect on anybody, they have an effect on the owners, right? The owners are the ones that can say to the GM, I know you don't think this is a good deal, but I'm getting a little nervous. I'm getting tired. All my friends at the club are asking me. My kids' friends are coming over going, you guys better not lose Debo. I'm not saying this is what happened with Jet. I think he lets those guys work. So it definitely doesn't work with the 49ers. But I think it works in organizations where the owner is too involved and emotional. I think those are really the only places that it works. Because they go like, I want my star player here. Let's pay him. Let's make up with him. Now it's such a well-known tactic that it's, you know, I don't know when I'd have to, maybe somebody else can remember when it started or where it came from or who originated it. The holdout's been a long time. Hell, Emmitt Smith missed games, but the IG unfollow. Yeah. Comment here. Nothing more important to the NFL than eyeballs. If a big team has storylines, all the better. I'm sure all of it goes through the NFL anyway before it hits the media. They control the narrative. Brandon Aiyuk being unsigned, it's not some major windfall for everybody, but it's a great story for the offseason. I mean, for me, right? If you talk about the Niners as much as I do, then Brandon Aiyuk being a storyline, the Niners have always, like in recent years, the Niners don't just go to the Super Bowl and give you a full season of content and sometimes lose in spectacular fashion. They also have Bosa. They got Jimmy. They got Purdy. They got Trey. They got Debo. They got Aiyuk. And they are one of the NFL's biggest brand. So now that said, this comment, like, you know, this story is not running through the NFL. It's a story because Brandon Aiyuk isn't signing and he's putting out some videos. And there are some things happen here and there. Mike Silver, you know, does not work for NFL media. And he told Pop and Lund the other day on local radio here, KNBR, $26 million was the offer. He said that a few times. So, you know, I do think this is it is a real story. Now, the drama of it, I don't think is very real. And the part of the proof of that is that Ayuk's trying to manufacture it. But Brandon Aiyuk has told us that he messes with people and us. So, you know, like, let's be very aware of that. We're talking about a player who has told us that he loves messing with anybody. Let me look at a few more comments here. Matt says, David Lombardi has a decent interview video with the Niners tight ends at tight end U. Gives you an idea for their sizes since they're all standing together. I did see that he did tell me that he was in Nashville. He was going to do the tight end U thing. So I'll go check it out. Saubert looked ripped at tight end U, made Pline look skinny. Saubert's ripped. I'd say Pline is big with the frame to add more onto his arms and shoulders. But yes, Saubert is ripped. Saubert stands out actually on the field. Flav, with $9.99 USD super chat. If Aiyuk isn't thinking beyond this contract, he's a moron. $2 million less now to play with Kyle and be familiar with the offense and your QB. Easy decision. He knows he's taking the offer, just trying to get more there. What's the answer to this comment? Yeah, I mean, if you believe you want the $2 million more now and you want the next contract. You want the $2 million more now, go play with Washington, Jaden Daniels. I'm going to go catch 85. I'm going to catch 90. I'm going to catch 105. You're going to make me the centerpiece of the offense, and then I'm going to get another deal. Right? That's the thing with Aiyuk is you could put him in a worse situation and he would catch more balls potentially. You could put him on a worse team with a worse scheme and a worse quarterback, and just as a result of the fact that maybe he'd be their best player, they'd throw him the ball 160 times, and all of a sudden he'd have, 110 catches. And you'd go, he's a more valuable player statistically, raw numbers, than he was to the 49ers. You know what I mean? So I know what you're saying, and I do think there's some truth to it. You go to the Steelers, and now you're playing with Russell Wilson and Justin Fields, and it's just a weird, there's the potential that you're not playing in playoff games anymore, and you're not. But I do think in a weird way, going to a worse team, a team with less offensive options, now his yards per catch, would he lead the league in that? No. But his volume would go up. Oh, this is a favorite topic of mine as it relates to Aiyuk and anything. I had dinner with a listener who's the man making these hats, named Steve, and yesterday, and we were talking about. Sorry, I got to stop here for a second because I got audio coming from somewhere. Hold on, everybody. Good God, I don't know what the hell that was. But we're talking about journal, the difference between rumors and reports. So Ian here says journalists keep the story popping or trending, especially in the off season. Jeremy Fowler seems to talk about it every Sunday. An update is there is no update. So the journalists are very involved in the story. Absolutely, make no mistake about it. Let's just make sure we all are. When we're talking about journalists, we're talking about journalists. And when we're talking about reports, we're talking about reports and not rumors. There's a different standard. And this is why when you hear somebody talk, when I see Jeremy Fowler said XYZ, let me go see it. Let me see it. That's a big deal to me. So-and-so in a press conference, here's their quote. Okay, let me see it. Because when you see it, when you hear it, it can have a very different feeling than when somebody tells you, "Oh, I heard they've reached a standstill." Well, let me go see it. And Jeremy Fowler, you go watch it. You go, "Oh, Jeremy." There's really not much about what Jeremy Fowler reported on ESPN on Sunday. I wouldn't call it optimistic, but it also was not pessimistic. And if I had to choose which way it leaned, I think it actually leaned optimistic. So, yeah, I don't know. I'll tell you one that I looked for this one today. I couldn't find it. Because I heard somebody say, "Oh, this Washington rumor," or was there a Cleveland Browns rumor? Was there a? I heard Papa say today, "Oh, there was an Amari Cooper for Aiyuk rumor." I mean, it's just stop and think for a second. But anyway, I tried to find it. I could not find where that came from. Which I hate. I hate when I can't find it. I want to find it, and then I want it to be from a real reporter, and then I want to talk about it. But that I couldn't find it. Honestly, I didn't look that hard because it's so outrageous. I don't know how I would find it, to be honest. Yeah, weird. Somebody asked here a comment. Where did this go? Somebody said Cooper's freaking old. I'm pretty sure Amari wants it. Does he not want a new contract? Has that situation resolved itself? Did he skip minicamp? Yeah. Which is part of, I guess, why somebody would. I don't even want to talk about this. But Amari, I just think Amari is an interesting player. If Middlecoff were here, he would remind me that early in Amari's Raider career, I said that his feet reminded me of Jerry Rice. D West says it pops up when you Google SF 49er news. Oh yeah. Here we go. I mean, like, what is this? You guys know a lot of, just because I haven't heard of somebody doesn't mean they're not legit. Just because somebody hasn't heard of me doesn't mean I'm not legit. So I like to be respectful, but let's just do a little sniff test here. Let me pull up a story. Okay. I just typed in SF Niner news, and the first story is from Gridiron, say the word, gridironheroics.com. Report: San Francisco 49ers trade disgruntled star to Arizona Cardinals to pair with generational talent in crazy trade proposal. All right, my guess is that just somebody made up a trade proposal. Let's see. Is this even what? According to whilst there has been much noise about Aiyuk being moved to a receiver-needy team like the Steelers, one intriguing franchise that's often overlooked is the Arizona Cardinals. According to CBS Sports, you're like, oh shit. According to CBS Sports, hold on, fine print, via Cardinals Fan Nation. Could be a strong landing spot. Although Arizona did just select what many consider to be a generational talent, Marvin Harrison. They're pretty thin at receiver. The Cardinals have the fifth most. So I don't even, maybe I missed the generational offer. But here we go. Let me click on this. CBS Sports says Cardinals could make sense for a team to land him. We should just do this. You send me a story. You're not sure if it's a report, and we do a sniff test. All right. So here we go. CBS Sports. Arizona just spent the number 4. Aiyuk, meanwhile, okay, that's not anything. The Cardinals have added Zay Jones. Holy smokes, everybody, we found it. There's the trade. This is the key to the whole thing. This is like one of those Indiana Jones movies where at the end you go, the key to the whole thing, we found it, and it's Zay Jones. Of course they'll trade him to the Cardinals. The Niners want Zay Jones. We've known this for months. So like, Zay Jones pulls off the mask. He was here the whole time. So good. I still haven't seen the draft capital and blah, 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 blah. All right. And look, and let me also say this. Years ago, one of my first jobs in commercial radio, I was working at 1430 ESPN in Fresno, California. And I was hosting a show and I was producing a show. And I remember one time I got this writer on who turned out to be he's become a big deal, but he was just on the internet at the time. And the guy who was producing the show said, this guy's only on the internet. And he spent half the interview grilling the guy. So again, just because it's Fan Nation or everything originates on the internet now, or pick anything, like it doesn't mean it's not. I'm not saying it's not legitimate, but we do like you like this is an attempt to mislead a little bit. All right. Now that is the first story that comes up on Google if you type in SF 49ers news. I mean, come on. Right. Yeah. So I don't know. That didn't say Browns in it or or Carolina. Now that we found Zay Jones, though, everybody, it did say report at the top of it, which, of course, is BS. That's not that was not a report. Like, that's what I think I rail against. That's not a report. That's a suggestion. There's a difference. It's like hey, mom and dad, report. I applied to Harvard. All right, maybe it'd be, hey, mom and dad, report. I'm going to Harvard. Really? Well, I mean, I applied. Report. It's not a report. So from here on out, you see a story that you think is BS. Maybe you gave it the sniff test. And let's be very clear. This story does not require a bomb sniffing dog here. Okay. Now some do. This one does not require a bomb sniffing dog. I mean, we could, bomb school reject dog without the ability to smell could have figured this one out. Oh, they're going to trade him in the division to the team that I'm learning this new system here. Yeah, sure. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm all for having a conversation. Hell, I just had a conversation about this thing. I'm all for having a conversation. We can talk about whatever, right? Like, you go meet your buddies. They come over to the house. You go to the bar. You start talking. Nobody's sitting there going, well, hold on. Is that a twice verified report? What's the source on that? We're all just having a conversation. So like YouTube and podcasts, this is not the Wall Street Journal. So I'm all for, and this is like where it's a little nuanced. I am not saying we can't talk about rumors. I'm just saying, let's put them in the right category when we talk about them. This is an idea. Let's talk about the idea. Is it a crazy idea? Is it a good idea? Can you believe it? But let's just not talk about it like it's a report. What else do I want to talk to you about? Oh, by the way, the Steelers got in-season Hard Knocks. Give me preseason Hard Knocks. In-season Hard Knocks with Russell Wilson. Mike Tomlin's going to get tested. Mike Tomlin is such good television. So I am interested in, I guess, it's December. I didn't really watch the last one. They're doing the AFC North. So I think it's Ravens, Browns, Steelers. So that's weird. Yeah, I would not want that if I were this. I don't. Maybe no one wants it, but I would definitely, of those teams, I would definitely not want that if I were the Steelers. It's just too weird. The Russell can get too odd. It's just no, man. Comment. Type in Niners, Aiyuk, Browns. All right. Contract negotiations remain ongoing with Amari. I'm not going to spend much time on this here. Cooper is looking for 2 years guaranteed. Serious speculation. Aiyuk video, blah, blah, blah. Commanders, interesting rumor posted on X by NFL Notifications. The account has 45,000 followers. They're hearing that the Browns mentioned what would be a shocking trade with the Niners. Apparently, Cooper for Brandon Aiyuk. Okay, so what do we think here? Let's take a little poll. Hit the like button if you think that report's BS. Like, even if for half a second I were to believe that this person has heard this rumor from like an agent, the Browns, the Niners, on what planet do the Niners acquire older, no blocky, disgruntled wants a new contract, Amari Cooper, for younger, much blocky, good dude, proven teammate, war daddy, Brandon Aiyuk? Also, as a commenter points out, What the hell? Thank you, Andrew. What the hell is a breaking rumor? Oh, man. Could you imagine Brandon Aiyuk getting traded for Amari Cooper? Amari could play. I like Amari. Amari sometimes plays, sometimes shows up. Brandon Aiyuk always shows up. Brandon Aiyuk blocks his ass off. Not exactly Amari's thing. Yeah. Maybe what the wide receiver group for the Niners needs is a veteran Amari Cooper. Get out of here. You know, I'm starting to actually enjoy this stuff. We talk about it this way. Yeah. Last thing, I mentioned Steve Peterson, who is one of California's finest merchandise creators. So all you high school football coaches out there, you local college coaches, you athletics directors, you need a guy, you need your hats, you need your jerseys, you need your hoodies, you need your t-shirts. You hit me up and I'll put you in touch with Steve. Anyway, Steve was in town and we went over some hats, a few more samples. Folks, I'm here to tell you, we're getting very close. My goal right now is to have hats ready to sell at the beginning of August. Okay, I think I said earlier did I say the Circa contest goes through the end of September? I meant the end of August through September 7th. Anyway, end of August. That's the hope. For those of you watching, I'm going to show you a couple of things here that are not going to be for sale. For example, this we got the logo a little smaller. It's not going to be the black rope hat, but we got the Hey Guy logo a little smaller. It's 3D. I think we're going to go with a rubber patch instead. But this is another sample, a different hat. The original hat was to honor the 262nd pick in the draft. Is an old saloon style font with the numbers 262 across the front. This font is too big if you're looking at this video. This hat is not the quality that I want. So we found what I think are some higher quality hats. And I'm getting some more samples this week of those. We're going to have black and white, I think, to start, if those samples turn out good. I'd like to do a red, but red's a little tough because the font has red in it. So you've got to match the thread with the hat. The one I'm wearing right now on this screen that's red actually does look pretty good. I got to say, I don't think red's my color. This looks pretty good. This is not, I don't think we'd make this one. This one actually, the problem too with this particular hat is it fits a little small. So we're getting a hat that's going to fit a little better. I'm supposed to get some samples, hopefully end of this week, beginning of next week. And can share with you what some of that looks like. Question here from Richard. He says, how much? Still figuring that out. I've mentioned this before. Somebody said to me one time on a stream, I'd rather pay $25 for a bad hat. That is not how I shop. And I'm kind of making this hat for myself. What I mean by that is I'm not going to sell you a hat that I would not buy. And I personally would prefer to spend $35, $40, $45 on a hat that really looks nice, and that I think is good quality than 20. Because here's the thing, it's not going to be a $15 hat. And honestly, it's not, even if it was the cheap hat, it would not be $25. It would just to make the cost work with including shipping. I mean, include shipping. So just to make that work, it would at minimum have to be, it'd have to be a $30 hat. And I probably wouldn't even for the poor quality one, I wouldn't want to put in all that effort for a $30 hat. Now, if I was selling, 5,000 of them, then the smaller margin makes sense. And it's not even about the margin necessarily. I just want to get some merch out there to you guys. But so I've not settled on a price. Open to your feedback, but really I'll do whatever I want. But open to your feedback. I want it to, I want you to feel good about what you're buying, right? That's the ultimate point. So if you spend 30 and I don't feel good about putting it in your hands, then I'd rather charge you 40 or 45 and feel good about you putting it in your hands. So that's the goal. Hopefully we can hit quality and quantity. I'll have some instruction on how to buy. Oh, somebody wants a beanie. Yeah, I mean, I think there's going to be some options here. I've got some ideas, but more news on that. How about 262 on the back so I can wear it backwards? Again, it's not going to be this hat if you just saw the brand. I make hats for myself first, and then hopefully you'll like the same thing I like. And I don't like having any text on the back of the hat, but it's not a terrible idea. If you like to wear it backwards, you put a little 262 on there. Could be the reds. I'm not going to get a new sample. The red does look good though. It's red and gold. And anyway, for those of you listening to this, hopefully you stopped listening 5 minutes ago because it's just me putting on hats on the stream. All right, I think that's what I had for you guys today. Appreciate you jumping in. Thank you. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel. Appreciate that very much. If you're listening to the podcast, and it's weird, you got to have Apple, I think, in addition, and not be using Spotify. You have to have like an iPhone and be using. But anyway, for those of you that are in that category, Apple Podcast, leave a review, 5 stars. Appreciate that very much. And leave a question. And we got another mailbag coming up. Okay. That's it for this Tuesday night. I'm out. Hey, thanks again. Appreciate y'all on the circasports.com. Click on contest. Find out more. Maybe I'll be in Vegas at the end of August for Niners Raiders to sign up myself. But don't wait for me to do it. Go get involved. It's a blast. And appreciate them jumping on. Very excited to have them. And you'll be hearing me do these ads, which is good news for me. It's money in my pocket. And a cool thing, hopefully, for us to have some fun with this season. All right, everybody. I will talk to you soon. Soonish.